Anyway,
Maybe you don't have them properly trained yet.
I could be. Captain Dave, the floor is yours.
Oh, wow. All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Walter said that, he said to me that his house is haunted. I asked him, how do you know? He said, my wife's still there. That's horrible. All right. Anybody here ever not caught a snook? Thank God. All right. Everybody's caught snook here. Cool. All right. So we all know about, a little bit about how stubborn they can be. Lazy, lethargic, opportunistic. I've been addicted to snook fishing since I was 10 years old. I caught my first snook in Midnight Pass. I was standing on a dock in Heron Lagoon in Sarasota down Midnight Pass Road. We were, my stepfather, my mother, and my brother and I, we were living in a little house there in the lagoon. And I was out there with my little junkie pole, my little Zepco 404 thing with push button. And I had a big diamond sinker and the pink beads and the steel leader, the real Yankee rig. Squidder rig, we called them, with a chunk of dead stinky squid, and I'm flipping it out there, and I'm catching a catfish here and there, and just junk. I'm really not catching anything, and my next door neighbor walks over. I barely knew him. And he walks over and goes, hi, Dave, what are you doing? I go, I'm fishing. He goes, yes, you are. Well, little did I know that his name was Earl Downey. He wrote the book, How to Fish for Snook. And he walks over and he picks up my pole, and he goes, psh, he breaks it over his leg. And he throws it in the trash can out back, and I'm like, just come here, and we went into his garage, and he handed me a brand new Mitchell 300 in the box and a brand new Shakespeare rod, and spooled it up and put new line on it, showed me how to tie knots and put a Wild Willie jig on it. And he says, go ask your mother if I can take you fishing tonight. Okay. So she said, Mom's like, yeah, sure. So we went, and he took me out back by the lagoon. We practiced casting that Wild Willie jig with a spinner. I never threw a spinner in my life. It wasn't good for about the first 2 hours. I mean, I hit everything but the water. But finally got me down to where I was pretty good, and he took me down to Midnight Pass when it was open in Sarasota that night, and I was throwing a Wild Willie jig. And my third cast, he said, the first cast hit there, the second cast hit there, and the third cast made it out there. And it went to the bottom, and as soon as it went to the bottom, he said, twitch it. I went, twitch it. And the third twitch, it went, and just doubled over. And then what he did, he stood there like this. He says, now I'm going to lift. And don't you reel till I tell you to reel. And he pumped it up like that. He said, now reel. And I reeled. He said, stop. Wait. Reel. Stop. And he was teaching me how to pump it in with a rod instead of the reel and not curlicue my line. He said, you got that? And I'm like, and I'm like, and this thing went on and on and on. And he went down in the water, about shin deep water, and he grabbed this thing by the bottom lip. And all I could see as 10 years old was this fish kept coming. And kept coming. And it was 41 inches and about 21 pounds. First snook, first time I ever went snook fishing, third cast. Well, first real cast. It was the night that ruined my life. It was the night that was going to assure that I wouldn't do good in school, I wouldn't sleep at night, I wouldn't get a good credit rating, I wouldn't keep a wife or kids. I'd be out snook fishing instead of going to the bar. But yeah, I got hooked. And we started going and going and going every chance I could on the weekends, and all summer long, all I did was snook fish. We would drive down to, he'd take me in the station wagon, we'd go down to Venice, we'd go down to Inglewood, we'd go to Sarasota, we'd go to Bradenton sometimes, all over. And by the time I was 14, I kind of, as he put it, he said the student became the teacher one night. Because we had beefed up our tackle. We were catching some pretty good snook. And I looked over and I saw these snook kind of piled up and some like along some rocks. And I'm watching them and I go, wow. And he goes, those don't eat. Oh, what do you mean they don't eat? Because I just saw some mullet about that big go over the top of them. And I went, ooh, apparently I need a mullet. So I took a little cast net and went over and I cast netted mullet, maybe a little bit bigger than that, probably about that big. And I slapped one on the hook and I flipped it out in front of him and I reeled it. Boom, they hit that mullet. He goes, give me a mullet. But we started catching, lots of big snook, and I started fishing with a lot of the old timers down there and really learning the game. And I got hooked. I mean, I spent my prom night, on a bridge fishing. Yeah, 2.5 hours into the date, I was done. I took her home and went fishing. And I drove around in then an AMC Pacer. I was the bomb. I was a fisherman who drove around in a fish tank. Anywho, I was hooked. But anywho, what I've learned about snook over the years is that they're really, really lazy, lethargic, stubborn. You know, I brought this tonight. This is nothing. People are going, what the heck is that? It's got a hole in here. It's designed as a bumper for your boat. In no way I'm going to use this for a fish bumper. That's cool. I mean, I like that. Fish bumper, it'd get all tore up and the paint get knocked off it. Somebody ought to make these again. I went to a Florida Sportsman show about 15 years ago and they were selling these. Guy brought in 200 of them. They were gone in 2 hours at $20 a piece. Poof. I bought one and I've never seen him again since. But he was gone. He was out. Anywho, the reason I brought this is to just, you don't have to worry about bringing in a mounted snook. You can pop this, you're not going to hurt it. But the snook's got a low slung jaw, and when you got the high set eyes, that nose like a pike or a northern or a muskie or pike, but they're designed to lay into the tide like this. And you'll notice on a lot of big snook, this anal fin and the bottom of the tail are all scuffed up. They're kind of scraped up and scuffed up because they spend so much of their time sitting on the bottom, just laying there like that. They're real bottom dwellers. The big snook are bottom-dwelling, lazy fish. The little schoolies are the ones that are about this size, of course not this fat, but the snook about this size, they school up in huge schools, huge pods, sometimes 200-300 in a school, and they'll just lay there all lined up facing into the tide. And my last trip out, I took Jan Mason, the outdoor writer from Miami. He came up and was staying on Siesta Key in Sarasota, and I took him down to Venice, and we got about over 50 snook in a little under 4 hours that night between 2 of them. And I did it in one dock. Pulled up into a dock. You guys remember that real windy night last Saturday? That wind was coming in hard out of the north, about 20 knots. Well, we went down there, the wind was coming out of the north. The tide was coming in, the wind was driving. These snook were lined up. There was about 250, 300 snook lined up under one big giant underwater green light. And they were just lined up facing into the tide. And every single time you threw my little lure I call Cousin It, which is nothing more than it's like a little skirt off of a bass buzzbait. And you flip this thing out there and just reel it like that. Boom, boom, boom. Every 2 at a time, 2 at a time, 2 at a time. They got bored after a while. They're like, this is dumb. Let's go in. So I'm like, he had to get up the next morning to fish with Rick Grassett. So, but we got about 50 snook in about 4 hours. But the snook fishing is, really good right now. I'm hoping we don't get another really hard winter like 2010. The population's coming back. They're coming back in Bradenton. They're coming back in Terracea. They're coming back in Terra Verde. I even talked to friends that are catching them in Pasco a little bit around the lights again. Not much. A lot of big trout over there and stuff. But they're starting to make a comeback. But a little bit about tackle, and I won't beat it down. There are 3 kinds of snook in my kind of the way I describe it. There are 3 kinds of snook. There's snook, snooklets, then there's snook, and then there's snook. Snook is a whole different animal. That's a big old beast. That's like Snookosaurus rex or Snookzilla. That's a different animal. But when I'm just regular basic snook fishing, snooklets and snook, I'm using 15 to 20 pound braid, 30 to 40 pound fluorocarbon leader, 7 to 7.5 foot medium action spinning rods, about a 4,000 rip. And oftentimes people come up and they go, Shimano FX 4000, isn't that about a $19 reel? I go, no, I pay $14 for them. They go, you take your charters out with $14 reels and like $40 rods. And I go, have you ever seen what people can do to a rod and reel after 6 beers? Whoa. Oh yeah, I used to fish them with, nice Stradics and beautiful reels like that and watch them lay down with the strip hanging over, off this boat it goes, or snap the rod because I had a G. Loomis. I don't know what it is with G. Loomis, but they seem to snap there all the time. So I started going with these cheaper rods and reels, and guess what? They catch fish just as well as those fancy ones. And when I'm done with this reel, I throw it away. And when it gets a little wore out, starts acting funny, I give it to a kid in the neighborhood. If it gets really crazy, I keep it for parts. But I pay $14 for that reel, and that reel will fish like a champ. Now, when I step up to a larger snook, yeah, I'm not going to go with cheap reels. When I get to a little larger fish, these 8-foot medium heavy action spinners, go to 8,000 spheros. Yeah, granted, that's not a Stella, but it's a nice reel. Right here, I've got 30-pound braid. This right here is Power Pro. I've got 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, and that's for catching bigger snook, like 34 to like 40-inch snook. in a fairly open water situation. You start hooking 40, 42, 44-inch snook with some structure around, you're not going to want to hit with some heavy structure. You don't want to hit them with one of these. You'll get her attention. You won't stop her. She's 42, 44-inch and around a dock, around a bridge, or underneath some mangroves or around some oysters, and she's just going pow in a barrel. You're going to tear you up. So when we get into some heavy fishing and some really big baits, and I keep these on here for one, if you have a lead weight on here, it keeps the lead weight from beating your blank up. Also, you can put a lure in here and keeps your hands from getting hooked. Those are kind of neat. Bass Pro carries those. But when I'm going for really big snook, the big snook, I'm using something like this. This is a Spheros 14,000. That's 100-pound Power Pro, 100-pound fluorocarbon leader, and that is a 9/0, pretty much, you know, that's a bad to the bone hook right there. That's an owner right there. That's a 9/0. People go, do you really need that? And I go, yeah. Cliff, do we need it?
Yeah.
Bruce will tell you we need it, don't we?
We need more than that.
Yeah, we need more than that. Bruce and I, he and I and Cliff, we fished together a lot. Bruce and I have been fishing together for a long time. We go out at night with tackle like this, and we're throwing mullet that big live.
Actually, bigger tackle.
Yeah, and bigger, you know, 9-foot rods with, what do you got, an 18,000 Spheros?
Yeah.
You got the biggest Spheros made, loaded with 100 and 9/0 forged hooks. And sometimes we'll grab a live ladyfish that might be 18 to 20 inches long. And you take these live ladyfish and you flip them out into the snook world, and you watch these things get nervous. And you're like, and I'm standing there behind Bruce with the video camera going, and you see that line just go, poink, and set the hook. And the last really big one Bruce caught was, how long?
51.
51-inch. We guessed it of around 40 pounds. We didn't weigh it because we didn't want to hang it by its bottom lip. But it was 51 inches long. I got a picture on my phone if nobody believes me. He's got a replica of it on his wall, but it was around a 40-pound snook, and that one ate about a 21-inch live ladyfish. Boom, gone. And it pulled you flat, almost.
I was standing in knee-deep water on a sand bottom, and my feet had settled into the sand over my ankles. So when I set the hook, the fish pulled back harder than I set the hook. Nearly pulled me face first into the water. But I was able to get 1 foot up, and then I'm fighting the fish flat-footed again, nearly did it all over again.
It's a huge snook. It was at least a 40-pound fish.
And then it charged me.
Yeah, it charged at him. He goes, it's coming at me like a shark. And it was a great fight. And the whole time, video camera wasn't recording.
That's the classic.
Yeah, the video camera. Now, we didn't have, and I'm like, well, we recorded the part where he's holding it in the water, and he held it up like this for a picture and some video, and we got that part, but, oh well, anywho, live and learn. But if we're going for really big, giant snook, we're going to just tackle like this. Sometimes when we're bridge fishing, I grew up fishing on bridges a lot. That's where I really started, pier and bridge fishing, seawall fishing. Never used a boat. And I found that you can catch just as many snook without a boat as you can from a boat. Land fishing is fantastic for snook. In fact, I used to work at the Colony on Bayshore Boulevard. I was a waiter. And Wes Sargentson came in from Channel 8 one night. He says, I hear you catch a lot of snook. I said, yes, sir, I do. And he said, I'd like to do a little story on you. And I'm like, okay. So we went out. We drove up and down the coast, and he caught about 45 snook that night in about 6 hours from his feet. And then he aired it on Channel 8. He says, just give him a hook, and he'll catch a snook. It was kind of goofy little catchphrase, but anywho, we took him, and he aired that on Channel 8, and I had about 350 phone calls in the next 3 days wanting to go. I quit my job, and I started running land charters. And then one night, I had
Tell them about the truck.
well,
Tell them about what you were driving when you started this.
oh yeah, beat up old truck, and one of the fellows that was that went to Homeport Marina, there was a couple of guys that I took. They were very wealthy men, and they said, Dave, could you do this out of a boat? Sure. I don't have a boat, and I don't have any money for a boat. We'll buy you a boat. You just take us for free. So they bought me a boat. They bought me a 18-foot Roberts Snooker flats boat. It was 17.9, and they bought me a little truck to pull it with. And I took those guys fishing a total of 3 times piece. One died and the other one moved to the Keys. I felt horrible about that.
Yeah.
It was weird. I was like, and I called his wife, "When do you want me dishes, Dave? I'm not gonna miss it. We've got millions, and I'm not." And I was like, "Okay, thank you. God bless you." And then I took Frank Sargent out, and he said, "You're a madman." He said, and that's where the mad snooker came from. Frank Sargent gave me a goofy nickname. But anyway, a little bit about that. Let's go back to snook. The best way to find snook is to think of a calendar like winter, spring, summer, fall. Wintertime snook, they're inside. Power plants, warm water outflows, residential canals, creeks. They come back in these deep, muddy rivers. They go back in the Alafai. They'll go back up in the Peace River, the Palm River, Hillsborough River, Philippi Creek, Shackett Creek down in Venice, Godfrey Creek in Venice, Inglewood, all the creeks. They go all the way up the Hillsborough River. Oftentimes we used to go up the Hillsborough River and we did some crazy stuff. Anybody remember on Nebraska Avenue where the dog track is? Okay. There was an old yacht club back there with some shuffleboard courts. And behind the yacht club were the shuffleboard courts where there was a dock. When it rained a lot on the outgoing tide, the Nebraska Street Bridge, we would stand on the Nebraska Street Bridge with these. Stand on, and we would throw these bombers toward the bridge, let them sweep a little bit, drop the rod tip low, and then start cranking. And you hooked a snook almost every cast, and they averaged about 12 to 15, 18 pounds. And it was one after another. But you talk about a crazy place to fish. That's a rough neighborhood at night. Anywho, yeah, we had one guy come down there. He was dressed in, the road crew. He ran off from the road crew. He was hiding. See anybody? Don't tell him I'm here. We're like, okay. Not a problem. Okay, back to this. When you're fishing for snook with something like this, my favorite go-to bait is a live shrimp for live bait. My favorite live bait is the live shrimp. I like live pinfish. I like live finger mullet. But usually it's live shrimp or small pinfish and stuff like that for a rig like this. And if I'm going to use an artificial like this, a DOA shrimp, I want a natural color. That, to me, is the closest to a live shrimp color, and I have had great success with that. I've tried these to no avail. There's no point in my life have I ever seen a glowing dark shrimp. Never seen one. Neither has a snook. And a lot of times you have this thing lit up, and it goes by them, and they go, whoa, it's a power plant snook. Been too close to Big Ben or whatever. We got a nuclear power plant around here? I don't know. Anywho, but I've never had any good luck with those. But these I've had great luck with. If I want to catch snook with a rig like this on artificial, my go-to bait for many, many years, I used to go to John's Pass, Blind Pass, and Pass the Grill. And I would pull this little pink shad body thing out, and everybody would go, "Nice lure, Dave. That sure is pretty." My one buddy called it the pink sissy bait. And I go, "Yeah, watch what this pink sissy bait will do." And I get there right at a certain part of the tide, and it usually was like the last 20 minutes of the incoming. And I would throw this thing out to the bottom of like Blind Pass. I'd twitch it 3 times. Doom, doom, doom. I go, watch this. Boom. One after another. 12 to 20 pound snook on that little jig right there. There were nights, remember, the little bar in Blind Pass, I think called Woody's? There's a little bar there. I had people, everybody stop what they're doing watching me catch snook. And they kept wanting to see what I was using. And I kept going like this. And I wouldn't let them see it. I didn't want them. And I didn't show them quite what I was doing. But we caught a lot of snook out there. But I like to jig at night. One of my favorite ways to fish is with a jig. And whenever you're jig fishing, you want that jig to hit the bottom. Twitch it up. Hit the bottom. And the snook tend to pounce on that bait on your jigs as they're falling down. Now, when you're fishing like the East Coast with jigs, you got to have a much heavier jig head. That's why I go with these. These are called the DDX. David Justice's son, he makes these. His name's Dylan Justice. He pours these heads. He makes the heads. He pours the tails, everything. They're called DDX. They will eat these things alive on the East Coast. They tear them up at night on the inlets around the bridges and docks. That is a fantastic bait. But I like to jig fish. I'm not a big fan of treble hooks. So I've kind of gotten away from using these. Every once in a while I'll go back to it, but if I do use it, I'll take my pliers and I'll crush the barbs flat. I don't like leaving these barbed up because they're so hard to unhook the fish and they mangle the fish's head. And oftentimes when you're on the East Coast and the deep inlets over there, people are, you don't associate that with snook fishing, do you? Troll a CD-18 Magnum Rapala. We troll the inlets over there with these CD-18s about 70 to 80 feet behind the boat. We just troll them out the back, and they'll be down 30, 35 feet. Just bam! They'll hit it like a big grouper, and you got huge snook. We've caught snook over 35 pounds trolling these. We used to troll them at Haulover Inlet in Miami all the time, David Justice and I. And these things we've caught many a snook over 30 pounds on these. That is a really good technique. Troll inlets, but you need an inlet deep with a CD-18. If it's not that deep, you can go back to trolling something like the regular old Magnum Bomber, long A. And you notice that's the red and white. That's what I go with. I try to look for natural colors. If I'm casting, if I want to work something really deep and I want to work it slow, this is my go-to lure. Again, back to my friend David Justice. He came up with a solution to a problem. A lot of times when you're fishing a swim bait and it goes down and you're cranking that bait along the bottom and the snook hits it, he gets hooked, and the weight of the lure itself, he goes like this. He shakes his head and then throws the lure, throws the swim bait. That happens so much. We had a lot of problems. Dave was working for Berkeley, and he developed a Berkeley swim bait. It was about the size of this, and it's close in profile, but it kept throwing it. So what Dave came up with, he stuffed the hook on a lead. He carved out a hole and stuffed it in there. Well, he needed a better solution, so he came up with this. Now, this is called Spool Tech. And when you're cranking this along the bottom, and the snook hits it, you set the hook deploys away from the bait. Do they work, Cliff?
They work.
First cast, Cliff was like, "Are you kidding me?" That was a big snook.
That was, yeah.
About a 25-pounder right in Venice Inlet. And I threw the Spool Tech, and I go, "Cliff, grab my phone." And Cliff videotaped the whole goofy video. But when you're done, you unhook them. If you need to change the tail, you simply can just pop the tail out, drop a new tail in it, like that, line it up on the slot, pop it back in, and then you unhook the fish, and you simply just turn the wheel. It's got a wheel on top of it, and you roll it back in. And it's the most amazing new innovative bait I've seen come along since the DOA products. And they sell them at Bass Pro, and they sell a lot of the tackle shops in Sarasota and Brayton in like discount tackle. And no, I don't get a dime for telling you about them. The only thing I get is the satisfaction that you might go out and do better with them. But these are one amazing lure, and they really, really do work. And you will it will just take the leverage away from the fish. And I've got some videos on the Mad Snooker channel on YouTube showing them in action. You can, if it says anything, go on YouTube and just type in Spool Tech, Spooltek, and you'll see them in action. They are incredible. I don't bother wheeling that one in. But when you're fishing with big live bait with a rod like this, my favorite go-to bait with a rod this size would be a pinfish. And the reason I like a pinfish so much is they can almost live in a bucket of mud if you aerate them. They're really, really, really durable. They're flashy. They're hyper. They're tough. You can cast them quite a bit more than you can. Yes, a grunt is a good bait. A pigfish is a fantastic bait. Cast a pigfish 3 times, he's usually done. You can cast a live pinfish the size of your hand 10, 12 times. If he doesn't get hit, he's still got a little bit of good flutter to him. Where a grunt is like just hanging there on your hook, going, ugh. Snook does not get excited about a grunt going by going, ugh. That just says, "Don't eat me." When he goes by the first time going, "I'm a living rattle trap," that's when he gets hit. When he's kicking like a live rattle trap, throwing off the vibration, throwing off the electricity, throwing off the excitement, he'll get hit. Problem when you're using a grunt or a pigfish, he goes to the bottom. And I don't care if it's down there and it's a rock that big, he's going to find a way under it. A pigfish or a grunt will find the bottom, any hole, any structure, he'll go right under it. Where a pinfish kind of hangs in the medium part of the water column. He may go down deep, but he never looks for something to go under. And he gets chased, he just takes off like a living rattle trap, and you can feel him like Shemp on the end of your line. And then you wait for this, all of a sudden, pick up the slack and pull. I like circle hooks because you don't have to really set the hook in the inlets at night when I'm fishing big inlets with hard, heavy current. You'll get these bow in your line, so you can't get that slack quick enough. and all of a sudden you'll just see it in the moonlight or the ambient street light or the condo lights off in the background. You'll see the line just go, this tiniest little bump, and all of a sudden you just start cranking. Just crank as fast as you can, and whoop, it'll come tight. Now if you're fishing, you hook into a 25, 30-pound snook on a big pinfish with a rod like this with, say, 60-pound braid on it with 80-pound fluorocarbon leader, with about a 5 or 6 knot incoming tide, it can be a challenge, especially if he's 25, 28, 30 pounds. Those fish will just absolutely just barrel through the inlet. As Bruce knows, we've been out there many a night, just one after another. Every bait you throw in there. Anybody familiar with Glenn Plough, the average angler? Yeah. Yeah, I had Glenn out there one night, and he had Jen Holloway on board with Baby's 9 Anchor. And Glenn, you're recording this, aren't you?
Yep.
Turn it off for a second.
No, it's okay.
Next door.
I kept baiting Glenn's hook with pinfish. I baited my hook with grunts. He never knew that. He's gonna know it now. Sorry, Glenn, it was a dirty trick. But what I was doing is I took the grunts and I'd throw them out there and go, boom! And I'd hand the rod to Jen and the cameras would come on. I kept baiting his with pinfish and nothing. That night they wanted grunts. And after about 4 or 5 big ones like slobs, like 25 pounders, holding up for Jen, he's going, what's going on? And I just went, and I kind of felt bad, so I baited him with a grunt. As soon as he threw it out, he got one. So there are times when the grunt's the go-to bait. Wow, I hope Glenn doesn't watch. Sorry, Glenn, it was just a joke. I just was messing with him. I wanted Jen to do good that night. And I apologize for any time any of you had to watch Count Snookular. Whoa, that was bizarre. I don't really ever want to do it again, but I bet he could talk me into it tomorrow. It's just kind of goofy. But back to something like this. When you're seawall fishing or pier fishing or dock fishing, when you're like Cliff and I woke Cliff up, what was that, about 1 in the morning?
2:30.
2:30?
Not you're really counting.
I said, Cliff, get down here. And I had a
I
big,
woke you up, didn't I? No, I was just hanging out.
I was fishing in Venice. Cliff lives right in Venice, right by where I was fishing. And my clients had just left, and I had some big live ladyfish left over. And so Cliff goes, I call Cliff, I go, get down here. And I had this giant bait tank on the front of the boat, on the bow of the boat, because I didn't have my new boat ready. And I said, Cliff, get down here. I got this monster snook in the front of my boat. And so Mike Mahoney's here.
I didn't miss nothing, did I?
So I have this huge snook sitting in the front of the boat, and I was looking at it, and I go, man, I was trying to revive her. She revived good, and I'm like, I got to get her back. So I put her back, and then Cliff hasn't shown up yet. But he got so, in his haste to get down there, because he was so excited to come down, because I had a bunch of big bait left. What'd you do?
I flew to my feet, I ran out to the car, I got halfway to the Honda, and I realized I hadn't put my pants on.
You ran outside in his underwear. So he shows up, and I go, Cliff, I go, look at that. And he's looking at about, 26, 27-pound snook, and I go, so he takes a picture of it, and I go, here, Cliff. I grab a hook just like this. I get the hook out, and I ease it down, and I grab another ladyfish out, and I hook that thing on there, and I go, here, take this. And he's standing on top of the dock with probably this exact rod and reel, and he's letting it out, all of a sudden, boom! That was a good snook. That was another 20, 23, 24-pound snook. But when you're fishing around a heavy structure with big mullet, big sand perch, maharas, some people call them maharas, silver jennies, the goats. The striped maharas are real tall. They got a big fin. They're nasty, big old baits. Well, when you're using one of those, the way I like to fish a mahar, and done it for years, what we do is we grab the mahar by the head like this, and the top dorsal fin will be right here. We flip them upside down, and we go right where they're, basically, for lack of a better term, where the butthole is. And we pop the air bladder, pop, and bring the hook out sideways like that. And what you do with him then is you lower him down into the feeding station or into the eddy, wherever you're at. and you lower them into the eddy or into the feeding station up tight of the eddy, and that thing will take off. I'm talking a mahara like that big, like 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. It'll take off like a bat out of heck, and just whoa, 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 and you leave the spool open, and you keep your hand on the spool like that, or you can do a conventional 4-aught, and you can just pat line like that, and you're feeding it, and then all of a sudden you'll feel that thing absolutely just trembling the whole rod, running away from the snook, and then you will feel the most insane, solid, thumping hit you've ever felt in your life from a snook. You will swear it's a 200-pound Goliath eating a stingray. They hit them so hard. I've never seen anything get hit harder than a mahara. And they hit that thing, and then boom, and then you reel up your slack and you smack them. But yeah, if you've never fished with a live sand perch, I highly recommend trying it. Around here, the bridge that runs right over the Peace River on 41 right down there by the boat ramp, stay on top of that bridge with at 3 in the morning. Pack up an attitude adjuster with you, just in case. And don't go alone, and get a big mahar and walk out on that bridge, and then don't go to the upcurrent side. You can try it, flip it out upcurrent, let it drift back. But if you got an outgoing tide, I would be facing to the west, and I just drop it down behind the pounds and let it sweep away from the bridge. Whoa, there's some big snook in there. When the Palm River Spillway, I used to sneak into the Palm River Spillway many years ago, right by the soap plant behind the Orient Road Jail, and we would crawl around. We'd park around by the soap plant and go around by the railroad tracks, and then walk up to where the spillway was. What we did there is we threw bomber long A's and sometimes jigs, and we caught all the snook we ever wanted to catch there. But we got caught in there one night by the state trooper who lived in the trailer right there. He said, "You can't be doing that." So we came back with a boat, and we quickly realized that it was out of range. So then we took a radio-controlled tugboat with clothespins on the back of it, and we would literally tow our boat. It would tow our live bait all the way up. We towed pinfish and sometimes bluegill all the way up, and before they even got to the spillway, a lot of times they get yanked off the back of the tugboat, and one of us would be driving the tugboat back. And the state trooper came out, and he went like this, and he lit it up, and he went, "That's so ingenious, I'm going to let you do it." I don't have a problem with that. And he goes, wow. And what he did have a problem was Kinko the clown fishing, because the radio control boat gave up with all the salt in it. And then I was over, this is a true story, nobody believes me, and I will pull it out of my footlocker and bring it in next time. I went to my nephew's, and he had this clown that rode on a wire across his bedroom. When it bumped into the wall here, it went the other way. When it bumped into the wall, it went back. And I looked at that and I went, clothespin under him, a couple more batteries, rubber bands. He'd go ahead on, he would probably stay on a fishing line. He was balanced with the thing. Sure enough, so I went to where the spillway was with tied to the barrels, and it's a long shot with a big surf rod. Lobbed a weighted treble hook over the top of the fence of the spillway, pulled it tight into the rod holder, got up on a step ladder in a John boat, which is stupid, on a step ladder, loaded up Kinko the clown with a clothespin, with a jig or a lure or a live bait, and send him on up. And he'd bump into the top of the spillway and he'd yank it out. You'd have your line like this, and you go boom, and you pull it out of the clothespin, it'd fall in. Kinko wouldn't be halfway back, and you'd have a big snook on. Well, same true story, and I'm going to find this trooper. He came out and he went, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." He goes, "You're the same guys with the tugboat, right?" And I go, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Now, how are you going to get that line off the top of my fence?" I went, he goes, "Don't do that one again." So we didn't. But I still have that clown in the footlocker, and I'm going to put it on Facebook. That was the most crazy thing I think I ever did to go snook fishing. I was going to teach you a little about snook, but I got to share some stupid stories with you. So one more dumb story and I'm done. I'm going to get into some real detail. We're in Blind Pass one night, fishing just north of Woody's Bar, and there was a condo right there. And to sneak into where the condo was, you had to jump a wall. Well, if you jump the wall, here's Woody's Bar back to you. Gulf's over here to your left. And if you jumped over the wall, there was these docks in there, and they all lit up, and they held a lot of 16 to 20-pound snook. They're a nice big snook. And my friend Min, a little Vietnamese guy that used to work at Burger King, he's like, "Hey man, I found some big snook." And I'm like, "Really, where?" And he told me, and I went there with another buddy of mine, and we were over there, and so we had a big Calcutta. You remember the Calcutta cane poles, the big Burma rods? Well, I flipped one over with a shrimp about that big, on a big jumbo shrimp I got from Gandy Bait Tackle, and I flipped it over. It did a boom, and I did what old Clyde Parrish from Ballast Point Pier used to do, and I slammed that thing into the ground like that, and I two-handed it, slung that snook up over the wall. Well, it hit him dead in the chest. It knocked the snook and my buddy went into the swimming pool, made so much noise with that snook flashing around the pool, the lights were coming on in the condo. I'm like, uh-oh. I pulled the snook out of the pool. He grabbed the snook, stashed the Calcutta rod in the bushes, threw the snook over the wall. We're running down the road, laughing our butts off, threw in the truck, drove off, and we weren't gone 3 minutes, and the red and blues are going the other way. We're like, went back 4 days later, that Calcutta pole was still in the bushes. 3 days later, whatever it was. Yeah, but I've done some crazy things to go fishing. I've snuck into power plants. One more, okay. You know the Anklo power plant? Yeah, we used to crawl around the barrels and go up under the bushes dressed in full camouflage. If you threw that way, you caught trout. If you threw to the right, you were catching snook, and if you threw out, you were hooking cobia. And we came out of there with a rucksack, army rucksack, a huge trout, and I sold them because I needed money back then to let the snook go. But we did a lot of crazy stuff back then. But
This was last week?
I used to stand on top of the 41 bridge and went over the Manatee River with a curb that wide. Standing there like that with a curb that wide like that, and cars and trucks going behind you 60, 70 miles an hour, 3 feet away, catching snook. I didn't think anything of it. You know, I was young, dumb, and I was going to live forever. I had to dream on. Lucky to be alive for some of the stupid stuff I did to fish. But when again, match the hatch. Use indigenous-looking baits, natural-looking baits. When they're eating shrimp, by God, give them shrimp. Those fall shrimp runs when they dump out in September, October, right now, these big moons on the outgoing tide, there'll be a lot of shrimp pulling off these flats going out the intercoastal down toward the inlets and passes, depending on the air temperature and water temperature. So when they're eating shrimp, give them shrimp. When they're eating glass minnows, you got a problem. When they're eating glass minnows, you got to be pretty good with a fly rod. Now, a lot of people that I take fishing, I do take quite a bit of fly fisherman fishing, and then I cover up hardware in the front of the boat with wet towels so nothing gets snagged up. But those who don't like to fly fish but still want to catch these snook that are eating glass minnows, well, that's when I whip out my little cousin hit lure, or I'll take a fly. Clear plastic cork, clear. Fill it up with water. Weight it. It adds weight, but it's clear. You run it about 5 feet above the leader, 5 feet above the fly. Now you've got a clear cork full of water for weight, and your fly's about 5, 6 feet behind it on a spinning rod. You flip that thing out there and just go, it's like you're stripping it, but you're doing it with this. And you're working the fly just like a fly fisherman would, but you're doing it with a spinning rod. Wham! It works. Makes fly fishermen mad, those purists. Look at this idiot fishing a fly on a spinner. We're catching fish, you know. That's the same guy, you know. When the fly fishermen come by, and they got their beautiful shirt, and their and their pretty little khaki pants, and their pretty shoes, and their boat without a spot on it, and they're going, and I'm drifting by going, with a 100-pound test and a 14-inch mullet, just got nailed. And I got a true story. About a 35-pound snook came up under his bow, jumped like 5 feet in front of my line off him. I go, he's going under your boat, man, he's going. And of course, I'm like, you know, I may as well been as redneck as they could get. I was born in Waterville, Maine, but I'm a redneck at heart. We've caught a lot of big snook over the years. But the best way to think of a snook calendar, winter, in, spring, coming out, fall. Well, it's winter, they're inside. Warm water canals, deep residential canals, rivers, creeks, deep channels, ship channels. Spring, they're coming out. Summer, they're out. Fall, they're coming back in. Just think of it that way. But find them where they're at. Think about the calendar. Use natural-looking baits, indigenous baits. Use natural presentations. You've got to be stealthy. You got to sneak up on your snook. Beer has nothing to do with catching snook. Nothing. Radios have nothing to do with catching snook. I see guys out there all the time with their this light on and that light on and these underwater lights on the back of their boat. I'm going, yeah, are those there every night? They're not. Then what good are they doing? They have to be consistent. They're good for catching bait, but they're not good for drawing snook to the back of your boat. It'll work, but it's not good. I see, you know, they're out there clanging around with their beer and they're stomping the cooler and they got their radio on and they're not catching anything. They're having a good time. God bless them, you know, but they're not thinking. You got to sneak up on a snook. You got to slide in there quiet. if you're going to use an anchor, roll that anchor down really, really quiet. If you're going to use a trolling motor, I recommend a Rodan. The Rodan trolling motor with a GPS. Bruce got me hooked on those. You press anchor, boom, holds you there. You set a pattern going down a canal full of docks, and you save that, and then you go back to the start, and you go boop, and that darn boat will drive itself all the way through, and all you do is fish. Now, will it stop at anchor points preset?
It will, if you don't exactly remember where you were, you hit that numbered anchor, it will go to where that spot was.
It's pretty cool. It's like the iPilot, but it's been coded on. I mean, it's Rodan, and I've had a little better, people I've talked to have been a little better luck with the Rodan, being a little more dependable, but, 6 1 half dozen the other. Match the hatch, match the size of the bait, match the size of the hook, according to the size of the bait. Using live shrimp, small white bait, threadfin, greenie, size 2. My favorite go-to shrimp hook is a 92 671, size 2, not a 2, but size 2. It's a bronze hook. It's a tiny little bronze hook. Tough little booger. Tough. They really can take a lot of pressure before they open up. My favorite pinfish, if they're like, say, a 4 or 5 inch pinfish, I use about a 4-aught, but I'll use a silver hook. I use a dark colored hook when I use a dark bait. I use a silver hook when I use a silver bait. I use a flashy hook with a flashy bait. Am I overthinking it? Maybe a little bit. The barometer is crucial. I don't want high steady barometer. If I go outside and there's not a single cloud, there's no wind, and I got a bright, beautiful, clear moon, and they're just dead still. High barometer camped out over the state, and I see the big H over Florida, I go, oh, they're going to be stubborn. And they are. They're going to be very, very stubborn. But if you go outside and there's a 25-mile-an-hour wind like I had with Jan Mason the other night, and the tide's coming in, and you got the wind driving it, and the clouds are blowing over your head, and you hear the Gulf roaring off in the distance, waves crashing, they're biting, they're chewing. They're a foul weather fish. Unfortunately, if there's a water spout coming across the bay with lightning crashing off in the distance, the snook are biting. Not the best time to be out there with an 8-foot graphite lightning rod like the priest in the movie Caddyshack going, damn you! Don't tempt fate, but if the weather's foul, the snook are biting. I mean, I think it's a lot like that. Even I'm not a bass fisherman, but a lot of the bass fishermen have told me in foul weather, the fishing's better. Mike, would you agree that foul weather fishing, they bite better?
I mean, I've seen it where it's not necessarily in the middle of it, but getting into it, definitely.
Yeah, getting ahead of the front.
Yeah,
You fish with Ernie Rubio a lot, right?
I have.
Yeah, he said he liked foul weather fishing.
You don't ever have to worry about somebody following you.
Not with Ernie Rubio. Or you. They know better. Yeah, Rubio, man, that's a tough character right there, buddy. Yeah. If you're in a bar fight, you want him on your side. But, there are so many good lures out there. This one right there, this right here is big. This is a DOA. It's called a BFB, a big bait. Fish bait. Big fish bait. This is the BFB, big fish bait. And they'll knock the tar out of these things. You flip these things out, then they got a little lip you can put in them, and they just bubble. But if you want to get a little more extreme, this thing right here, at the low price of about $30 a piece. I don't guide with these. This little doodad right here, when you crank this thing through a bunch over the top of a bunch of snook that are whacking mullet, and they see this, it's a mullet. I'm scared to throw this with anything less than my 100-pound test, because I don't want to lose it. I've caught 5 or 6 big snook on its twin brother. His twin brother's all beat up. I haven't thrown this one yet. This is my reserve. I got this at Bill Jackson's in St. Petersburg. You know that tackle shop you can't find that's hidden in the trees? And to this day, maybe somebody can read the bottom, but I can't without glasses.
Is there a leg fork? Something
Oh, what's it called? Can you read it?
Swim bait, BBZ1, fast sink. Oh, SPRQ.
I don't know. Bill Jackson.
S-Pro.
S-Pro. Oh, the S-Pro. And I got that at Bill Jackson's. And its twin brother has caught 5 huge snook, and I haven't thrown this one yet. I'm keeping it in reserve. I've never seen anything swim like this. And the snook crush it. We've got some spots where we snook fish, where the snook will only bite the first hour of sunup. From the time you get a little bit of daylight where it's just getting lit till the sun comes up for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half pushing it, and it's off. It's done. And that's where I've done really good on the BFB bait, and that bait right there, and live mullet. They're what they are. There's just little seawalls, and these snook lay there. Or as the mullet come around the corner first thing in the morning as they push on the outgoing tide. It has to be an outgoing tide. You flip your mullet up there, it comes around the corner, just boom, gone. Big, and these are big snook, really big. If I'm going to go for beach fishing in the summertime, one of my favorite go-to baits is the DOA Terrorize right here. I love that bait, maybe even the little smaller one, but I go with a light rod, and I'm not worried about throwing it way out. What I'm doing is you're throwing it down the beach in the trough. Like in Venice, there's a place called Casperson's Beach. All those rock piles, they stick out into the Gulf. You know, just don't go into the woods. You'll be followed back by some sweet men. It's very famous as that, but anywho, it's a famous beach for that. But it's also famous for snook and shark's teeth. Huge shark tooth collection down there. But what I've done is I go down there to Casperson's first thing in the morning, or at sundown. It's really good. And you take the DOA, Terrorize, and the rock piles are sticking out. You flip these Terrorize out there as far out, all the way to the end of the rock piles if you can, get in the water about that deep. And you just crank it down the side of those, and man, oh man, do they tear these things up. And the bait buster also. If it's a nice calm night, and the surf's kind of nice and barely rolling in, bait buster's good. If it's a little rougher surf, I want to go with a Terrorize. It makes it easier to use artificial a lot of times where you go, because you don't have to lug live bait. I don't want to lug live bait. I've got carts and bait trailers, and in my brochure, my crazy super goofy brochure here, I like to people go, you catch any snook? I go, no. I got a little carried away. You can have some of these if you want them. But there's a bait trailer on the back of that. I built a trailer just to haul bait around. It had a 200-gallon oval and a 200-gallon round tank on the back of it. We hauled it behind the truck and we fill it with bait. My first version of this sits over next to Gandy Bait and Tackle. It looks like a coffin on a trailer. Big white coffin. I'm sure Ernie has used it, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Billy uses it for a water truck. If it's still intact, I mean, that trailer's getting rough. But I built that years ago. And what we do is we load it up with big live mullet, and we spot hop. We jump from spot to spot to spot. We might start in Bradenton, and by morning it's time to turn around because we're in Fort Myers. There's some places down there if we can catch some big snook if the mosquitoes don't kill us. But those ones down there, they could kill a chicken flat-footed. I'm telling you, there's some nasty mosquitoes.
Okay, tell them where the mosquitoes are following you.
Yes, I don't know what it is, but I'm a mosquito magnet, but I don't know. But you go down to Big Carlos Pass where the state record was caught by a guy named Dick Cosmos. Little trivia, it was Bozo the Clown's, the original Bozo the Clown's son, Dick Cosmo. He was a bridge tender, Big Carlos Pass Bridge, and one night about 3 o'clock in the morning, the tide was slack. He was using a flowering Florida bucktail jig. He caught a 44-pound, 3-ounce snook off the bridge. When I heard that, I had to go there. So I went there, and we were getting consistent 25, 30 pounders there every night. But the mosquitoes are bad there. You've got to wear like combat gear. They're bad. But there's some big tarpon. But some of the biggest snook you'll ever find in the west coast of Florida are in Fort Myers. Fort Myers, Cape Coral. There's some just giant snook down there. Sanibel, Captiva. There, it's worth a drive. It's just kind of a haul. For up this way, I really don't fish north of Bradenton anymore. I just kind of quit after the 2010 freeze. I know it's coming back, but up this way, I know the Southshore, like the name of the club. Southshore has still got a lot of snook. I was talking to Snooky Bear at Art Paiva the other night while he and I were filming with Glenn Plow in the studio. We just aired this past Sunday. He was telling me that if they're starting to really make a nice comeback. Are they doing it, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as they were, but who's to say, but they're coming back good, a lot of slop, a lot of over.
Mike would know. Everybody know Mike Mahoney, right? That's a landmark, buddy. If they ain't got it, quit looking. It's true, too. That's the coolest story. Have you talked your gator yet? Yeah, beat that. That's still a big gator. Did you see that thing on the Discovery Channel with that crocodile they caught?
20-something foot.
22 feet or whatever it was, 21 feet. They transported it to it's alive still. It's amazing. But anyway, back to you. Okay, so let's see. With liter fluorocarbon mono, I don't think it really matters. I still use mono at night sometimes, just to try it to see if it really, were we missing out back then? Well, if we were fishing with Dacron, we were. And the rubber band action, there's nothing better than a 2-ounce bucktail, like a flare hawk, about 2 ounces on 30-pound mono, with a mono a piece of mono with 60 liter, with about 150 feet of 30-pound mono out there, all stretched out with a 25-pound snook. When he comes up and spits it, and that rubber band comes back, incoming! Well, you don't get that off a braid. You still get a little, but not even close to the rubber band. It was dangerous. I mean, I've seen some pictures on whoa. Oftentimes when you're fighting a snook, I always say, pull the fish the opposite way of the other people on the boat. If you got people on the boat to your left and the snook's to your right, I still pull him to the right. Because I don't want to pull him this way, because if he comes up and spits, boom, and that rod's torqued over this way, that hook flies right back at the faces on the boat. And people always say, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I do that all the time on the boat. I go, because you got that rod perfectly lined up. If that snook spits, I'm going to catch that hook in the face. And I stopped guiding with heavy jigs. I stopped guiding with many years ago. I was not going to hand anybody one of these, because everyone has a license to take your head off with it. I've seen some crazy stuff. I don't take people to do this very often. And I know that sounds kind of, I would say about 30% of the people I take fishing are pretty doggone good experienced fishermen. They impress me. And the other 70%, maybe should stick to golf. But and that sounds horrible, doesn't it? But I've actually turned around. And I can't tell you the time I've turned around, and I've turned around. I turn back around to see the guy getting ready to cast like this, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Well, the handle's on the wrong side." He's reeling like this. I go, "It reverses." And he's like, "Really? Oh, could you reverse it?" God bless him. He's fishing. He's having a good time. When is the best time to go snook fishing? When you have time. But if you were going to pick a best time to go snook fishing, I would say a Monday night with a good tide, around a good moon, when there's a great Monday night football game on in the fall. Can't do much about football in the spring. But this time of year, it would be a Monday night when there's a good Monday night football game with a good tide, possibly a front moving in with a good moon. You can't get any better than that. There's going to be nobody on the water. Front's moving in. Everybody figures it's going to be rough out there. Well, yeah, it might be a little rough, but it won't be that bad. But the snook will be biting, and there won't be anyone out there because everybody's watching football. I even remind all the fishermen, you got to watch that game tonight, right? There's a big Monday night game on tonight, But when you have time to go fishing. But if you make great catches under those circumstances when you went, log it. What was the tide doing? What was the barometer doing? What was the solar table doing? Moon, you got your majors, moon over, moon under, moon rise, moon set, those are your minors. If the moon was due to be high over, you were going to get the direct over at, say, 2 a.m., but you had a high tide that was going to reach high at about 1, maybe 12:40 a.m. You want to be there at 11:30 fishing to about 1:30. You want to fish at the peak end of that tide, around that moon phase, and just a little after that moon phase. But you'll notice, a lot of times, the snook, before you even see the moon come up, the snook will bite from here, before you see it come up, to about there. Then they slow down. But they bit right from this moon to that moon. When the moon gets up here, boom, they're done. Now they might come back on when the tide changes, but nothing like they did from here to there. And it's all about that solar table. It's huge. If you've got cats and they're getting crazy at home, running around, I promise you, look at the solar table. I bet it lines up with when those cats get crazy. If you got fish in an aquarium at home that suddenly get active and start feeding, check the solar table. If the cows are up feeding, the fish are biting. If the cows are laying down, the fish aren't biting. It's so true. When the game's active. I'm not a hunter. I know nothing about hunting. And I'm certainly not going to try to pull a gator into my boat. How many of you pulled in? Hundreds? What?
A bunch
A
of
bunch of big ones. What's your biggest now? Like 13 something?
13.8.
13.8. He pulls them in the boat. I'd be in the airboat going the other way. I'd be the first one to say, I'm not that, you're a much braver man. I could not do it, but, yeah, you'll notice when the game are active, when the fish are active, the animals are active, and make mental notes, written notes. If you go back to the same set of oyster bar or mangroves, and you want to fish that same spot on the same tide, 2 weeks to the day it'll be the same tide. 2 weeks later, if you had a great trip Monday the 14th, well, exactly 2 weeks later you'll have that same tide in that same spot, almost identical. It's every 2 weeks. Something to remember. Hey, I had a great night Monday night. Well, 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from that night, it's going to be that same tide, same spot. Many times I take guide trips out, and I call them spot safaris sometimes, because they all but bring out the handheld GPS now. Now they got their phone and record the whole thing, but whatever. You know, if you need a handheld GPS to go find my spots again, you shouldn't be on the water, because it's so easy. But oftentimes, I can't tell you how many times I've gone back to go fish a spot, and there's the boat, and I look over at the boat, and there's John and Bill from the night before, and they've been sitting there for 4.5 hours, and they're like, "Hey, Dave!" And I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" "Yeah, that's a nice boat you didn't have." But, "Hey, how you doing? You getting them?" "We haven't got a thing." They were there 3 hours too soon, and they spooked them. I don't want to fish a spot that's already been fished, and the best way I can describe that is you don't want to hunt for bird in a field 2 other hunters have walked through 10 minutes earlier. You've got to find fish that are undisturbed, laid up in a feeding station, what I call feeding station or drive-through. They lay up in these feeding stations and wait for the bait to become to them. There's very few baits that want to buck the tide, that want to fight the tide and go into the tide. Shrimp don't do it. Shrimp flow with the tide. You try to pull a shrimp against the tide, and it just ends up looking like super shrimp. And the snook don't want it. You've got to let that shrimp flow with the tide. Let a pinfish flow with the tide. Let a grunt flow with the tide. But if you put a mullet on there, yeah, he'll buck the tide. He'll go against the tide. A needlefish will fight the tide. A ladyfish will run against the tide and run away from the snook. A mahar's got the strength to run against the tide. The sand perch will run against the tide. But when I'm jig fishing, you can sometimes jig fish against the tide, but slow it way down. I tend to want to work my jigs with it, flow with the tide. If I'm beach fishing or bass fishing, throw the jigs out, let them go to the bottom, let them bounce out with the tide. Wait for that hit, thump them. Circle hooks are fantastic. You just reel. Once you get the snook near the boat, a lot of times I see this. This is one of my favorite things. A snook this long, okay, you got about a 25-inch snook. And I see them bring the snook alongside the boat. They throw them in the net, and then they got them in the net, and they bring them over the side of the boat and go like this. I mean, just boom, crash, whoop, boom, right down the deck. Oh, there goes the slime, the stress coat. There goes the scales, which protects them from infection. My favorite is when they haul them up on the bridge, swing them over the rail, slam them down the concrete, and then they go out there and they step on them like this and take their pliers and unhook those, whatever they got you or something they got them on. You know why they call them gotcha, right? Because when they come loose, they come back and they got you because it's like a lead weight. They're horrible. And then they go like this, and then they're holding them for a picture on a lip gripper like this, dislocating their jaw and messing them all up. I did it myself for years before I knew about it. And they're out there and they hold them like this for a picture over the bridge.